Hi, my name is Sri, and today we're going to be doing the Unity Create with Code Challenge 4 soccer scripting task. The point of this game is to control a ball and throw yourself into the opposing side's net, while you have an opponent who also does the exact same to you. Sort of like a sumo ball. But as we did in the previous task, we want to be actually downloading straight from the Create with Code website rather than the Unity store, as of course the Unity store is bugged, as we've seen in the previous challenge. Challenge number 1, if you would like. After saving it to a secure or safe folder, you could open it up and check the files or even check the MD5 hash of this file. And you should be able to see that it should be the exact same. And of course, let's now open up Unity. Here we go. Upon Unity's actual launch, it's sort of similar to each asset import before. You want to go to Assets, then click on Import Package, and then click on Custom Package. Then go over to the folder where you downloaded your starter files and import the .unity package file. We want to, of course, import everything provided here, as this would all be important for the solution of our create task. After it finished loading, let's go ahead and actually open up the environment for our challenge for create task. So here we are given what seems to be two sides, a red and a blue side, and of course a 2D plane of a net. There also seems to be a ball in our premises. If we were to go ahead and launch this game, I assume there will be a lot of bugs as mentioned before. So we are actually able to control which ways we are facing, and we're also able to control whether we're going forward and backwards. There's also seems to be a diamond, and after that, our game resets. Ooh, we seem to be getting a little bit of reverse velocity, which is extremely bad for what we want to do. So now that we know that there's already bugs in this game, let's go ahead and actually see what we need to do for this create task. Of course, the point of these steps is to mark as completed, and let's just go ahead and do the ones that we've done so far. So it says hitting an enemy sends it back towards you. Yeah, we already seen this logic for us. We go backwards and so does the ball. It should be sent away from the player. So let's actually see what in our code can fix that. So on our player object, let's see what script is provided. We have a player controller X, so let's open up that script. And of course, I'll be using the application called JetBrains Writer. On JetBrains Writer, let's see if there's a little line that indicates what happens to the ball and what happens to the player. So, of course, we're looking on the on collision enter, as I assume that's where the collision detection happens. So it says whenever we hit the target of enemy, we want vector 3, which is away from player, to be subtracted from our position. Wait a minute. That doesn't seem right at all. Don't we want it to actually have the other position subtracted? What's happening right now is we're taking our position and we're subtracting it by the enemy's position. What we actually want to do is take the enemy's position and subtract it from our position. Because we want to figure out what's the distance away from the player, not the player to the enemy. So this should be able to solve what's happening in our game and send the ball forward or send the player forward. So if we launch our game now, there you go. So that solves our first bug issue. So on our number 4, it says a new wave spawns when the player gets a power up. It says that a new wave should be spawned every single time when all of the enemy balls have been removed, meaning that they've been tossed into the nets. Alright, so how can we do this? Let's take a look back in our Unity environment, and let's take a look into our spawner manager. If we done unit 4, you should remember that the spawner manager should control every single entity that is spawned, which was the main premises of unit 4. So in our spawner manager, we have a script and we have two prefabs. We have the enemy and the power-up prefabs. So the power-up must be the diamond that was shown on the ground that we encountered earlier, and the enemy was, of course, the soccer balls. So let's take a look at the spawn manager x.ts. So it says in our update, whenever we have the enemy count of power-up and it equals 0, then we should spawn a new enemy wave. But wait, don't we want it to be our enemy that actually changes this? So let's make our enemy count actually become enemy. And of course, enemy prefab was determined here. And we are just finding things with tags. Let me make sure that the tag is already set on our enemy prefab. Yes, it is. So if I go ahead and launch the game now, we should have not reset the round with our new diamond, and this seems to be working. If we go ahead, hit the soccer balls in a very disorienting array of soccer ball, we should be able to get our wave reset. On our next challenge, it says the power-up never goes away. It should only last a certain duration and then disappear. Let's take a look if there's a script for our power-up. If we click on the power-up, there seems to be no script indicated here. So maybe it's in our player controller. Let's take a look at our player controller. It says power-up cooldown. It waits for seconds of the duration, and then it sets it back equal to false, and it sets the active to false again. If we remember how to set, I guess, a time limit or a time cooldown, which we also learned in our Unit 4, we should actually be using coroutines for our cooldowns. So let's go over to our on trigger enter, which is where the power-up is, and instead of destroying, or instead of saying power-up indicator true, let's actually do start coroutine power up cooldown, therefore actually bringing in our function or our method into the mix to be actually run. It seems to be not running before. And if we do this now, if we wait a while after getting the diamond, we should be able to lose the power up. There we go. And we seem to have lost it. There we go. So on number 6, it says 2 enemies are spawned in every single wave. But according to the logic, it should be actually 1 enemy spawned, and then 2, and then 3 in the wave 3, and etc. Alright, this seems to be another spawner manager mix. So let's go over back to our spawner manager, and let's take a look towards the function spawn enemy wave. So in our spawn enemy wave, let's take a look at this for loop. It says 2 is spawned each time, and it instantiates accordingly. But, let's see if there's some other variable that actually tells us what, how many enemies should spawn each time. Okay. Enemies to spawn is a variable. Here we go. And then of course, if we take a look at the spawn enemy wave, we have the wave count indicated here. Okay. And then this should now indicate how many enemies are spawned in each wave. There you go. We have 1, and I assume upon our next wave, there should be 2 spawned. Oh. Here we go. Number 7. It says the enemy balls are not moving anywhere. The enemy balls should go towards the player goal object. The player goal object. Let's take a look. Goals, player goal. It seems to be some sort of... Okay. There seems to be an enemy goal and a player goal. And we seem to be hitting it the wrong way each time. Or I guess we're hitting it the right way each time. However, what should be happening is... the enemy's balls are not moving anywhere. There seems to be like no system where the balls are actually wanting to go towards the player goal. We need to hit them back towards the enemy goal. So maybe let's try this out. Let's go back to our spawn manager X, or actually, let's go back to our enemy script, and let's find player goal here. So it seems to be we did not actually instantiate our player goal object. We instantiated our enemy object, but similar to enemy object, we actually want to have player goal. And then we want to set this equal to the game object dot find of player goal. And it should be the exact same name as our player goal here. So if we set this now, there seems to be nothing happening, but let's take a look perhaps. Perhaps there should be a later wave where we do actually have enemies, or perhaps this is a bug in itself. Because we do not have enemy balls currently. The bonus, the player also needs a turbo boost whenever we press the spacebar. Aha, we figured out what the problem is. So what actually happened in our enemy prefab was that the speed value was actually set to 0. But if we take a look and we set it over to 1, and then let's check out our enemy ball, we should be able to see that our value is actually moving a slight bit. And if we focus slightly on the ball, we should also see that moving. But actually playing around with our enemy ball prefab, we should be able to set this to higher values and see what is appropriate for this game. This one, of course, seems to be moving a bit more faster. And these two also seem to be moving a bit more faster as well. Oh boy. I really hate these controls. Now that we actually solved that problem with the enemy balls are actually now moving, let's go ahead to our bonus challenges. It says the player needs a turbo boost every single time when we press the spacebar. Of course. Let's go ahead and check this out. So in our bonus challenge, let's go ahead and see what actually indicates the player boost. So let's take a look at our player controller, and let's see if there is a variable that changes our boost. So we has power up, we have all these. Okay, let's actually set a new variable called private float boost equals, if our normal speed is 500, let's set this over to 10, let's set this over to like 20. It's already a mess to deal with our orientation, but let's check over here. And in our update, let's say if input dot get key down, and we want the key code space, then we want to have our player force of boost, and we want this as impulse. And this should now actually add on to the existing force. So, not overwriting. And let's try this out. Let's see if 10 was too much, or 20. So we do get a slight boost, and it seems to be moderate enough. So if we were to now kick it, do we get more force? There we go. And we get an appropriate amount. We got rid of one enemy. And the other enemy should also be gone. So we already know that we now have a turbo boost. Number 9, the bonus. The enemies should never get more and more difficult. The enemy speed should increase by a small amount each new wave. Let's take a look back in our environment here. And I'm actually going to set the enemy prefab perhaps down a little. Let's set it back to 15. And let's take a look at our enemy script. Let's take a look back in our enemy script. Let's take a look in our spawn manager. Do we have a value called enemy speed? Okay, we have speed here. Okay. Let's spawn each wave. Let's set a new variable called public. These want this accessible by our others. Public float enemy speed equals 500 as indicated here. Oh. Okay. After setting it equal to 50, let's get our enemy wave and let's set our new speed. Enemy speed equals plus equal 25. And let's go back into our enemy script and let's actually access this variable. So private spawn manager x sm script, and then in our start variable we can now set sm script equal to game object dot find. Let's game object dot find spawn manager, and then get the component spawn manager x, and let's set the speed equal to spawn manager x or sm script dot enemy speed, and let's set this back down to 10. Let's set this to 15 or 20. And then go back into our Unity environment. And let's see if this would be good enough. There seems to be a bit more resistance now. Oh. It does seem to be getting faster each game, and more balls are spawning, which is good. But I feel like we set the speed too high. So let's actually set this over to 0. And let's see if we could get our spawn manager increasing by 10. Now let's set this equal to 0. Let's set this equal to 10. And increase by 10 each time. Let's see if we could get the speed. Because the enemy should now be set to 0. And speed is now go 510. Where is the 510 coming from? And 520. We seem to have made a bug of our own. Enemy speed. Let's go to our spawn manager. Our enemy speed is right here. Let's set this back to 10. There we go. And this is now 30, meaning our enemies should now be equal to 30 as well. Perfect. So it of course works as intended. And of course, with that last bonus task comes our hint, and we have now finished our Unity Create with Code Challenge 4 task. This is how you do Unity Challenge 4. Hope you guys enjoy.